Hello, so I'm going to talk you through, explain how using stratified sampling might improve the design of a study. I'm going to read you the scenario briefly, and then I'll talk you through kind of like how to answer it. So a teacher wanted to investigate the attitudes of students in the school to homework policy, and this particular teacher used a volunteer sample. So this question's asking how you might use a stratified sample to improve the study, because obviously with a volunteer sample you might get a specific type of person who is maybe particularly helpful, and that might mean that they're more positive about homework because maybe they're that way inclined, or maybe they're very vocal about not liking homework and that's why they volunteered for the study. So you're going to kind of get bias in results. But the question is not asking you for the weaknesses of a volunteer sampling, although you might refer to those. They're asking how a stratified sample might be better. So the first point that you need to kind of make is what a stratified sample is and why that is better. So a stratified sample is, a few people were mentioning a small scale reproduction of the target population, which is fine, it is. And there needs to be the word in there about how the samples, or the stratified sample, will be proportionate to the target population. So in this case, it's the school, the students in the school. So that kind of needs to be said first, and then an explanation of why that means that it is being improved. So let's see if we can come up with an answer. Stratified sampling would ensure that the students, I'm just looking at the mark scheme actually, it's a bit kind of vague in terms of how to. The mark scheme says stratified sampling could ensure that various groups are represented in terms of their proportionality in the population. So there needs to be some reference to proportionality, but there's not really any mention of what the different kind of groups would be, which means that you need to kind of put something in your answer about that. Let's have a say. Stratified sampling could ensure that the students selected are proportionately representative of the entire school. And then in brackets, I'm going to put, you could do that the other way around. You could put representative of the target population and then put in brackets the entire school. Students selected are proportionately representative of the entire school, as it would be a small scale reproduction. I'm just going to put that in just because it gives it a little bit more detail, because it's a bit iffy that. I'm just doing it as we're doing it now. I've not really thought about the answer. I should have probably thought about it before I came on to do this, which is demonstrating to you that you need to prep these answers, because even though you understand it, like I understand it obviously, and I am having to think about how I'm going to word it. So if I was doing this in an exam situation, I've not got time to do this. Like, you've got to prep these questions before you go in, otherwise you'll just run out of time, because they take a while to think about how you would actually formulate an answer. So it requires prep to do it. Now that there is explaining how stratified sampling, but then now I need to say how it would improve it. So this would improve the design of the study as the results about students' perceptions of homework would be more representative of all students at the school. Yeah, sampling which might attract students who were particularly helpful or opinionated. about homework. Must be biased, let's have a say. This is probably not great, but it'll give you a general idea. Stratified sampling would ensure that the students selected are proportionately, that's the key word, that's got to be in there, representative of the entire school, target population. And notice how I'm applying it here by mentioning the school. It's clearly referenced to that STEM and not just some random, point, as it would be a small scale reproduction. I've just added that in, just as I said before, for clarity purposes. Maybe it's not necessary. Some people did put this and I credited it anyway without the word proportionately. So as long as one of those things is in, that's great. That'll get you 1 mark there, by the way. The second mark is for explaining why it might improve it. So this would improve the design of the study because the results about students' perceptions of homework. Notice how I've not just put results, which a lot of you do. Try and make some reference to the actual STEM. Would be more representative of all students at the school. In fact, of all students, I'm just going to put opinions there. At the school compared to volunteer sampling, which might attract students who are particularly helpful or opinionated about homework policies and thus be biased. Black population validity. This is probably way too detailed for 2 marks, but this is a perfect answer. It's not perfect, but it'll get you 2 marks. So there you go. Compare this to what you did. You need the first sentence for 1 mark, and then you need this bit for the next mark. You could probably just say that it would be more representative than volunteer and why. And then if you put some terms in, that's probably better.